G'day everyone, Muddy here from Muay Thai Interviews again. My next guest, he runs his own gym in Hamilton, New Zealand called House of Pain. He's an ex-fighter who now runs his own promotion called Knees of Fury. I'm joined by Ethan Shepp. How are you, buddy?
I'm very well, mate. How are you?
Good, mate. Just want to say thanks for getting in contact with me, mate. More than happy to interview people, and the more people I can get, the better. So really appreciate it. Thank you for that.
No worries at all.
Man, like a lot of people like myself may only know about you as a promoter and a trainer. So, mate, would you mind telling us a bit about how you found Muay Thai and delving into a bit about the days when you used to fight and what the scene was like back then?
Okay, so it's a pretty long-winded story, so I hope people have got a bit of time. I was playing table tennis, of all things. That, that was my chosen sport when I was sort of about 13 to 17, um, and playing at a high level and stuff for the state team and all that sort of shit. So I wasn't just mucking around in a garage. But my doubles partner at the time, he was a year older than me. Once the juniors finished in table tennis, there's like quite a big gap between juniors and seniors. So once he was a year older than me, and once he stopped playing table tennis, he started doing kickboxing. So I was still playing table tennis at the time, and he was doing this kickboxing and everything. We were good mates, and he said to me, "Oh, do you want to come watch? I'm having a fight and watch my first fight." I was like, "Oh yeah, for sure." And I was just thinking it was going to be like a little fight in like a little hall or something, and I just visualised all these, I don't know, karate outfit dudes. But no, I just had this vision in my head. It was just going to be a small little thing.
Yeah.
And then he tells me it's at the Old Lion Hotel, and I'm like, holy shit, this is going to be pretty interesting because he wasn't a violent guy or anything, and he was just a white, hairy, skinny, fat Irish dude, right? Like, Irish guys are tough, but was not a fighter in any shape or form. He was a table tennis player, just like me, right? So I'd go in there and I walk into the Old Lion, and there's this friggin' a ring in the middle of the dance floor, and there's all these people around. Like, it was pumping. And it was like, holy shit, this is pretty full on.
Yeah.
Thinking of my mate, thinking he's going to get pumped. All these people, and then he came out to the ring, and he's skinny, fat, whitest Irish dude you'd ever see, hairy as. And the dude that he fought was like a beast, man. He was shredded from Melbourne, real muscly, scary looking dude, and I'm just thinking he's gonna die. And he came out and he got smoked in the first round, and then came back, and his fitness overtook this dude, man, and just his grit, and he ended up winning the fight. And to be honest, it was the best thing I ever seen, man. And that night, Anthony Lapia fought Tony Tacasio,
Yeah.
and I think it was like an 8 round or a 10 round or something. I can't remember. Like, it was 25, 26 years ago. So I can't really remember how many rounds. But again, that fight was just amazing. So from that night on, I was just like, I was hooked, man. I was like, man, I'm going to start training with you. And because I was training with him with table tennis, it was just like a natural progression. We just trained together, started doing kickboxing, and he had already been doing it for about a year before I started. So he'd had a couple of fights by then, and yeah, I just, when you got a mate that's better than you at something, you just seem to get better
Yeah.
faster.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that was my introduction to kickboxing. I was 17 at the time. I'd finished playing table tennis, and then I trained for 3 months. I think I started about September, and then there was a fight show at the end of the year, December 18, I think it was December 18 or 19. And I'd been training like real hard all the way up, and my trainer said, "Do you want to have a fight?" And I was thinking, shit, I don't know whether I'm ready. And he goes, "Oh, if you don't fight now, you're going to not fight until probably like February or March the next year."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Fuck it, let's do it, man. I'll have a fight and I'll have a crack." And I fought this dude that had 3 or 4 fights before, and I won, and it was, mate, from then on I was hooked. There was obviously no more table tennis, and I was fully into the kickboxing then. And, back then there wasn't regular fights. It was, I was partying then a fair bit, so I'd have a fight, and then I'd, go walk about for 4 or 5 weeks, and I'd come back to the gym, and unless I knew I had a fight coming up, I was pretty slack, to be honest. And my trainer Alan Wong, he hated that at the time. He wanted us in the gym all the time, and I never really understood it, why he used to get so angry. But now I'm a trainer, and now I get it. So I'm getting I'm getting the karma back, because my boys are sort of similar. Some of my younger ones are similar to me. They have a fight and they go walk about for a while, and then they come back to the gym. And same thing. You need that carrot dangling for a fight to motivate you sometimes when you're younger, because you've got to sacrifice so much to fight. You miss out on parties, and when you're at that age when there's a lot of cool stuff going on with girls and parties, and it's hard. It's hard. But for those first few years, that's all I did. Fight and then party, fight, party, and then it wasn't until I was 21, I'd had about 10 fights up until then, and my girlfriend at the time, she was a girlfriend from table tennis days.
You
She
love
was
the
living in
table
New Zealand,
tennis, don't you?
and whenever I'd go and see her, I would train at a gym there. One of our boys from Adelaide, he fought a guy from Balmoral League R in New Zealand, Dave Allen. He fought Dyson Carassa, I think was his name, and Dyson beat him up. Won that fight, and we built the relationship from our gym to their gym then. So every time I went to New Zealand, I'd train with a guy called Lolo Hamuli, a very famous trainer now. Trained Ray Sefo, Jason Suddy, all those guys. So he was a real cool dude, man. He used to invite me and my girlfriend at the time, Barbara, to his house, and we'd stay there and we'd party and then we'd train. And it got to the point in Adelaide where, you're fighting once or twice a year, and I had this long-term girlfriend in New Zealand. I thought, stuff it, man, I'm going to go to New Zealand and chase this girl, but I want to train at Lolo's gym. So I lived in Auckland by myself and trained with Lolo for a couple of years, and that's when I got really serious about my fights. I didn't party. I just trained, fought back in the gym on the Monday, and lo and behold, that's how you get better.
Yeah.
You get way better faster, and I had heaps of fights in those couple of years, and improved a lot, and see my girlfriend on the weekends because she was living a couple of hours away. And and then after a couple of years, I moved in with my girlfriend at the time, and started training with another guy called Terry Hill, another quite very well-known trainer over here. And I had a few fights for him, and won a couple of South Pacific titles, won a couple of New Zealand titles with Lolo, won a Chinese, I guess you'd call it, world title with Lolo in Hong Kong. And then I got married in New Zealand, and then I went back to Australia for a holiday, and I was already sort of two-time South Pacific champ at this stage, and we went back for a holiday at Christmas time, and I seen a guy that used to promote my fights in Adelaide at the time, John Cheniotis, and he said to me at the time, how would you like to come back to Adelaide and I'll promote a world title for you? And my other mate at the time, he was my training partner in Adelaide before I left, Sam Harvey. He was winning an Australian title when I was winning New Zealand title. He was winning a Commonwealth title when I was winning South Pacific title. And we're sort of racing each other to see who would fight for a world title first.
Yep.
And then, John Cheniotis said that he'd do a double world title night for us in Adelaide if I was to move back. So I rang my boss and said I'm not coming back. Just stayed in Adelaide. My wife at the time, she was teaching. She went back to New Zealand, packed up our house, put all our shit in storage, and I organised a house for us in Adelaide. And then I trained in Adelaide back with Wongi and back with Steve Peach. He was a new guy on the scene then, training a lot of fighters. So I trained with him in the mornings and Alan at night. And then I had a comeback fight for South Pacific title first fight back just to show Adelaide people I was back. And then 3 months later, we did double world title night in Adelaide, man, and me and Sam both won, which was, probably one of, the greatest nights, that I've ever had. To be honest, it was pretty special, man. It was, a mate of mine that, we trained for so long and traced a dream together, and had those 4 years apart while I was in New Zealand, and then for us both to win on that night was massive, so that was pretty much my fighting career, man. And after that fight, I retired. I had a bad neck injury, and I retired, and Sam kept fighting, and then I had one more fight after that, which I probably shouldn't have.
Yeah.
It's a pretty funny story, so I'll tell you that story, all right?
Yeah,
Sam
go for it, mate. Go
was
for
fighting up in Queensland. He'd moved in with Wayne Parr and Paul Briggs at the time. He was training up there, Boonchu. I wasn't Boonchu, it was, what was it before it was, or maybe it was Boonchu with Ray Matsumura, Nathan Corbett, Wayne Parr, Paul Briggs. It was quite a good gym. He moved in with them, and he fought a guy up there called Warren Elson. All right, so we all went up to Adelaide to watch Sam fight Warren Elson, and we were partying pretty big at that stage. So we go to the show. Sam lost to Warren. Warren, I think, stopped him in the second. And at the after party, I was a bit wasted and, saying, I could beat Warren, this and that, blah, blah, blah. What do you know? Oh, Joe Hilton was there at the after party. He was like, oh, you want to fight him? I was like, yeah, I'll fight him. So he goes, oh, I'll do it on my show in September. I think this was about March or something. I've been retired for a year, talking shit at the after party. And then I woke up in the morning and my wife goes, you know what you did? You remember what you did last night? I'm like, yeah, what did I do? And she goes, oh, you said you're going to fight Warren Elson. And I'm like, oh, no. I remember it, and I was talking shit. So what do? You got to stick to your piss talk, don't you? And so I started training again, and to be honest, I didn't want to fight again, man. I was like enjoying my life away from fighting, but I don't like people that talk shit and then not follow it up. So I started training, and then I fought Warren my last fight, and he cut me up pretty good. I lasted the distance. Wasn't my greatest fight, but he was better on the night, man, and that was my last ever fight. And then from then on, I continued partying after that, and for about a year and a half, I guess, nearly lost everything. Partying and that was no good, but we had a lot of fun, and I was helping train Wongi's fighters at that time, patting them and that, and Paul Slawinski was the main guy, a young kid. He was only like 17 at that time, and I was helping train him, and there was no one putting on, fights for him, and he was similar mindset as a lot of fighters. We're extreme personalities, man. The fighters we party hard, we train hard, and he was one of those. Unless he had a carrot dangle, he wasn't in the gym, and I needed something to do, man. And I was like, fuck, what am I going to do? And I thought, stuff it, let's do a show, and put a show on, and Paul was the main event, and the rest is history, man. We had that first show, and everyone said I was going to lose money, and because the promoters before fought for never made any money, and blah blah blah, and I made some money that night, man, and I was hooked. I loved it. It had all the ingredients as what fights had then. It was I had the fear, I had the anxiety, I had the stress, I had everything. It was very similar to fighting. It was a real push, emotionally, physically, everything, and I loved it, and then to be able to put that all together, and then for it all to work, and then to have someone like Paul that I was promoting as well, and the joys after it, it was special, man, So after that, it was like, shit, this is what I'm going to do. I want my show to be separated from the other shows around. I wanted my show to, I want to have a name, I wanted to give my show a name that if people knew that, there's a Knees of Fury show on, that's a cool show, So no one was really doing names back then or numbers or anything. And my last trainer in New Zealand, Terry Hill, I fought on a lot of his shows, and his shows were called Fists of Fury.
Yeah.
So I really wanted, I always liked to involve the trainers that I had in some way or another. When I was fighting, I'd always have traditions and that, and I'd always respect the people that helped me along the way. So when it comes to promoting, I wanted to involve, Terry in a way, and that was his way. That was my way of involving him in my show, of the name. And I always used to love Bruce Lee movies and stuff, so I thought stuff I'll call it Knees of Fury. So
Yeah.
Knees of Fury 2 was the first time that I'd branded the name, and we had Knees of Fury 2, then we had 3 and 4 and 5 and so on. And a lot of people at the time, like no one was doing numbers back then. Like that was before UFC was even started, I think. I don't remember being UFC, been on then, and
Yep.
I was doing numbers, and it was like, what are you doing numbers for? Like, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know, I just want to do it, And then
Yeah.
now, after all these years, look at all the shows that are doing numbers, yeah? Everyone's doing it, mate. So that's pretty much the start of my fighting career, man, and how it all started and how I started promoting and all that. So I hope that answers that question.
Well, mate, I got to say, you have made the biggest jump I've ever heard into Muay Thai. Some people, go from karate to Muay Thai or kickboxing. You've gone from ping pong into Muay Thai.
Hey, mate, it's not ping pong, bro. It's table tennis, mate.
Sorry, sorry, table tennis, mate. That's killed my life. That's hilarious. What I wanted to ask you with what you just said, you said a lot of promoters would tell you like they didn't end up making money, and they told you that you're not going to make money. What do you think you did different to the other promoters that were telling you that you couldn't make money?
I guess I pounded the pavement, man, and I still do now. All right, like every show, I've got the same recipe as what I did for the first show.
Yeah,
I get flyers and I put them on people's cars. I go to events like rugby games. Like back then, I'd go to Aussie rules games. There'd be 50,000 people there, and there'd be 20,000 cars in the car park, and I'd put little flyers on their windscreen, and I'd just do all the little things. I'd do mail outs. I'd never expect that people were just going to rock up to the
yeah,
show, and I still do that now, man, with every show. Like it's part of the show, to be honest, that I hate, and I don't know whether it works or not. Like especially with Facebook now, you get all that free advertising and everything, but because I've done it every time, I can't do a show without doing it because I'm scared that if I don't do it and I have a shit show,
yeah.
I
That'll be
blame
why.
myself.
Yeah,
So I don't know. I guess that just the marketing, I suppose, or just the pounding the pavement and just getting the word out there. I would say that would be the only difference. And I guess I've never tight-assed on the little things that I believe make shows look cool.
yeah,
Like the sound and lighting, I believe is the biggest thing for the actual venue itself to have good.
yeah,
Like a lot of people tight-ass on the sound and the lighting, and people walk in there and it's shit, man. There's no atmosphere.
yeah,
Like of course you got to have good fights, but you got to have a cool venue that's got a cool vibe that people want to come back to, because you want them to not only just come that time, you want them to come next time, man.
yeah.
So that's I guess I reckon that would be the only things that I've done different, I suppose.
I think having the lights and the sound is good for the fighters too. It sort of like it shows that the promoters appreciate all their hard work and their training, and that it's going towards something. It's not just like, oh yeah, have your fight and piss off. It's thanks for
Yeah,
all
well,
your hard
I
time
mean
and training.
that's another thing, I guess, that I've promoted from a fighter's perspective.
Yeah,
That I've always looked after the fighters. Like you ask anyone that comes to my show, man, and they love it. Like I pick everybody up, I drop everybody off. I mean, in saying that, the last couple of years it's been tricky for me to drop people off at the airport because I'm flying back home to New Zealand as well.
yeah,
But yeah, just those little things, man. That, I put them in nice hotels, and the fighters don't get paid what they deserve to be paid. And unfortunately, I don't know why it hasn't evolved over the years. That I'd love to be able to pay fighters more, um, but you just can't. You just can't. So if you can't pay them the purse that they deserve, I like to treat them like rock stars when they arrive.
Yeah.
And that's what I liked as a fighter. Like I fought in a lot of different countries around the place, and there's nothing worse when you rock up and the hotel was shit, man, it stank or whatever, and like it doesn't take much to look after the fighters.
Yeah, definitely, mate. And some great fighters have come out of New Zealand, such as Ray Sefo, Mark Hunt, and David Tua, just to name a couple. The standard and quality of fighting has gotten much better and has evolved over the years. How do you think New Zealand fares against the rest of the world in terms of the Muay Thai aspect of it?
In regards to the Muay Thai aspect, I think they're a little bit behind. All right, like they, what New Zealand lacks in promotions and professionalism and stuff, they make up for in their heart. All right,
Yeah,
like Kiwi fighters are the most gangster, just tough, don't give a shit, die attitude fighters that you ever find. All right, like um, compared to the Aussies are a little bit more onto a man with the weight cutting and the professionalism and yeah, just everything. Aussies definitely ahead in the game. All right, because I don't know, I can't really pinpoint what it is, whether it's their work ethic that they've got a better work ethic than Kiwis. Kiwis are a little bit more laid back.
yeah,
Um, I'm talking generally, all right? Like, there's a few Kiwis at the moment that are, smashing it, all right? Like, City Kickboxing in New Zealand is doing massive things with Israel and Brad Riddell and, like, no, they're just, Dan Hooker,
yeah.
like, the gym is just firing hard,
So
like,
is Brad
yeah.
Riddell back there at City Kickboxing, or is he still at Tiger?
Well, he's back and forth all the time,
Oh, yeah, okay.
but, I'm pretty sure Huge is his manager and all that sort of stuff, and they're all together
Yeah,
under the one umbrella. I mean, that gym is doing it, man, and they've got a great work ethic, and success breeds success. You got someone like Israel, opening doors, and he's sparring all those guys, and they believe that they can do it, and a lot of it's mental, I believe. Are they doing anything physically better than a lot of the other gyms in Australia? I don't know. But just mentally, it's just that belief, man, that when you see your stablemate achieve something, I think that you can't teach that. Does
yeah,
that make sense?
yeah, yeah. You've either got it or you don't.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think when you see your mate achieve something, it just sets something off in your mind that if he can do it, I can do it, and it doesn't matter how many times the trainer pisses in your ear that you're really special, you're really good. Unless you really believe that,
Yeah,
it doesn't help. So I don't know, something about dudes and and I shouldn't leave girls out of it as well, but I think friendships and that when you see a friend of yours achieve something and you're doing the same times as them or you're doing the same work as them, and it just makes you believe that you can do it more, I think. So Kiwis are doing real good at the moment on the fight scene, and that's a credit to City Kickboxing, Eugene Behrman and Doug Vinny, and and the fighters that they're producing, mate. That's not to say that other gyms aren't producing good fighters, but they're on the at the top of the world level at the moment, mate.
definitely. And one Kiwi Muay Thai fighter I really enjoyed watching. I've only watched a few of his fights, but man, he was fit and he was so cool after his interview. Was that Sam Dashank Hill?
Yes, yep. Well, he's with City Kickboxing now too.
Mate, I watched him. I think it was last year. He won King of the Ring 8-man, but before that, a month before that, he also won a 4-man. So he fought 5 times in the space of about a month or two, I think it was. And just after that, after his fight, he had a little quick interview in the ring, and he was just so chilled out and relaxed. And he's just like,
Yeah, no, he's
yeah,
he's he's real good, man. Like it's such a special thing that they've got going. Like him and Baby, like his wife's a fighter as well.
Did she win last? Did she win last week? Because I saw the Yankee
She
chick.
lost in America, but she's fighting in Madison Square Garden, man. Like,
I saw that stare
that's
down.
his wife.
Yeah.
And then her brother, Nansen, is like, an unbelievable fighter as well. Like, and then there's Victoria Nansen. That's the, she used to be the head of the WMC over here. She's a champion fighter as well. Like, it's just a pretty cool, happy little family. Imagine sitting around there, Christmas table, at Christmas, the fight conversations that have been going on would be pretty wicked, eh? Like, they just live and breathe it, man. And Sam and baby got a cool young family. They got twins, and it's just awesome to see them both feeding off each other and still achieving great things in the sport. So I've got a lot of time for both of them. They're real cool people.
Their kids are going to have some big shoes to fill in the future, I can tell you that. And mate, you do run your own gym in Hamilton called House of Pain. I've heard the name's quite fitting. How long have you been a trainer for, and was that a natural progression for you once you finished fighting and went into promoting?
Well, I've been, a so-called trainer ever since I stopped fighting, all right? So I had my last fight in 99, so 19 years. I've been, when I was in Adelaide, I was a pad holder, okay? So I was Paul Slawinski's pad holder, and Alan was his trainer, okay? So I was traveling with Paul to a lot of K1 events and everything, 15, 16, 17 years ago, So I've been helping fighters along the way for a long time, but as far as being just the trainer, I've been doing it for 9 years since I've been living in Hamilton, and it's been cool, man. Like, I've loved it. It's stressful, and I don't know. It's a love-hate relationship, I think you could only call it. I'm very lucky that I've got a gym at my house, man. So I've just built a big shed on my property. I've got like a lifestyle block over here, so I don't have to go anywhere, and I haven't got any overheads and all that sort of stuff. So I'm very lucky when it comes to that, and it's allowed me to train a lot of kids that don't have any money. I do a lot of work with troubled youth and stuff, and I have done for the last 9 years. Haven't really charged a whole lot of people for training at my house and all that, but I've just started. They're working now, like they were all kids and that at the start. Now they're working, and now they're making a donation to the gym, so to speak. All right, so.
Yeah.
I've just made some changes with that because it's I'm travelling with these dudes now, like they're fighting at a good level now, like there's one boy, Quade Taranaki, started with me when he was 15. He fought on Glory, 6 months ago in China. So, I think once they start reaching that kind of level, when then they can start sort of giving back a little bit to the gym and that, So it's been cool, man. Like over the last few years, I've been to some of the big shows around the world. I've been to Glory, been to Lion Fight, and then just more recently with Alexi, we fought on Rebellion. So yeah, only got a couple more to conquer, Bellator and one, and then I think we've been to most of the big fighting organisations in the world. So pretty proud, man, as a pretty proud trainer to have my boys reaching that level, and I love it, living vicariously through my boys now. It's pretty cool, So yeah, I do like it, but it drives me mental at times.
And
I think only a trainer would really understand me saying that. Like you give so much time to these kids and that, and like I touched on earlier when you asked me about I got into training and got into fighting, and I said about how I used to go walkabout, after fights and partying and that, and Alan used to say to me, you'll get it back when you become a trainer, and now I'm getting it back. So I do often ring Alan and laugh with him about that now I'm getting karma back, and laughs, and it's mate, you just got to give everything to these kids, man. It's not a part-time gig, like you become their psychiatrist, their job placement person, their motivator, their father. Like you just got so many different hats, man. And it's as much as it's cool changing these kids' lives and that. it's exhausting as well at times because I've got my own family to think about, man. You know, like
Definitely.
I've got a, a lovely daughter who's nearly 13. I've got a son who's 15, and they're achieving great things in their own life with their own sporting careers, and sometimes I'm away and I miss those things. So I've got to be careful that my kids are my number one priority at all times, and you know you get sidetracked a little bit because you've got this big fight in America or you've got this big fight in China,
Yeah.
and I don't want to be that dad, man. I don't want to grow up and my kids are gone, and they think that the fighters got first chop over them. I'm very wary of that. That I don't want that to happen, but
Yeah.
it's hard because you're going into a fight and they could potentially get real badly hurt. So you get overwhelmed with it, and you're forever watching, their opponents to build a game plan, and you're out of the gym. It doesn't just stop there. You're in your bedroom and you're closed off, and the kids going, "What are you doing, Dad? I'm watching this fight. I got to," it's just it
Yeah.
smothers you, man.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful of that, but it's a good thing.
And you said you've worked with a lot of troubled kids, and you've helped them change their lives. Would you just be able to touch on, like, people that say that fighting is a barbaric sport and all that bullshit, but how has it actually affected the youth that you have the troubled youth that you've worked with? I'd say it's all been positive mostly.
Yeah, there's been no negatives at all, man. We're lucky in New Zealand that people got a real fighting mentality. They come from a long line of warriors and Māori warriors, and their fighting's not frowned upon. So I approached a lot of different schools and that over here, and I did a lot of work with there's particular schools that would have all the bad kids in every class, and they would put them all in one class,
Yeah.
and those kids were pretty much segregated from you know, from the everyone else in the school, man, and they just sit in this class with this one teacher and not learn and not do anything. So they would bring me in to help these kids to talk and motivate them and all that sort of stuff. And some days would have bad days, man, because they'd come in stoned or whatever, and I couldn't believe that they were getting time off school to train Muay Thai. And they didn't appreciate it.
Yeah.
I just couldn't get it. Like, I would have killed
Yeah,
at
man.
15, 16 to be at high school and, have, a former, champion fighter come in and teach them these skills. And they just didn't get it. So I did that for about 5 years here. I've just stopped recently because my boys have come back from China. I've got to train them during the day. But to answer your question, the changes it's made, man, like, I've taken some of these kids out of gang houses and taught them how to eat properly and how to train and get a work ethic that they would have never had before. And if they can train and put that work ethic into training for a fight, everything else becomes easy. Like as a job interview, like these kids wouldn't even look you in the eye. They had no confidence.
Yeah.
And then now, after a few fights, and they're walking tall, man, like they got a bit of strut in their walk, and they got confidence, man. It's not arrogance, it's inner confidence that martial arts gives you. And, it saved my life, and now it's saving people's lives every day, mate, Muay Thai. It's such a fantastic, respectful sport, and they get to channel that anger and that everything that they've got from their home life into a positive thing, and then they get mana around the area and they get respect from their mates, and they've gone from just coning every day and thinking that was cool to training and getting those accolades in front of 1,000 people at the shows over here. And now all their old mates that they used to hang around, they're still doing the same thing, man.
Yeah.
So they can see that they're moving forward in life, and it's pretty rewarding. I love it.
Man, I'm getting goosebumps as you're talking about that. I could only imagine how cool that would be, like to have like someone that would rarely turn up to the gym, and then you might rock up one morning and the person that never turned up to the gym is bloody in the gym before you, hitting that bag, like showing that they want to be there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is. It's cool. It's still frustrating, man, because they sink back into their old ways at times.
Yeah.
And you gotta take yourself back to those times. And like I was a troubled youth, man. So I've got to give him a pass. Ah,
No, it's all right. Sorry, guys, just lost a bit of reception there, but Ethan was just talking about how he's got to give the youths a pass because he sometimes used to be a bit of a troubled youth himself, Ethan.
yeah, yeah. So you got to revert back to your old ways, mate. And I do have to give him a pass and be a bit more tolerant, I guess. Um, but yeah, overall, it's having a very positive effect on their life, mate. And makes me very proud. And that's another thing. Like with these kids, how I was saying to you before, like it gets smothering. It's because you're pretty much, they become. Well, my gym's a special kind of a gym in New Zealand, and because it's at my house and everything, I don't advertise. It's not like I have, like I want members coming and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
Everyone that's in my gym, I've only got probably about 15 fighters, but every single one of them is connected or related or something in some kind of a way. I don't mean bloodline related. To come to my gym, you need to be brought by one of the other members,
yeah,
so to speak. All right. So they's got to vouch for you because it's at my house. I want to trust everybody there. So the gym's always open. They come at whatever time they want. If they need somewhere to sleep, they can sleep there. It's part of their house, man. All right. So my house is indirectly becomes their house.
yeah,
All right. So we're out in the country. My house is never locked up. I want people that I can trust there. So it's not like all access. Anyone can come and train at our gym, and I'm pretty stoked with that it's like a little family, and these guys end up becoming like family members, man. They're like an extended son or whatever, and that's how that's what my gym's all about, and I love that, I like that I don't. If you don't fit into the gym, I can tell you, look, mate, it's not going to work out for you. Whereas, other gyms, I guess, they got bills to pay and overheads and that, and you got to, I guess, you got to train people that you don't like every one of your members,
yeah.
if that makes sense, because you need them to pay your bills, man. And I haven't got anyone like that in my gym. Everyone that's in my gym, I want them there wholly and solely, and I care for them, like they're part of my family.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Definitely. So it's an invitation only, which is good.
Yeah,
And now, mate, we have touched on it, but you do promote your own show called Knees of Fury, which is held in Adelaide, Australia. You've also promoted around 15 shows over in New Zealand. On May the 26th, this coming weekend, you'll be promoting your 70th Knees of Fury show, which is quite a remarkable and great achievement. Can you tell the listeners about the show and the theme you've got going on for the night?
yeah. Well, the show I'll start with is the 70th. So for all the big numbers, like 50, 60, 70, I try to do something a little bit different, kind of a theme. All right, I did a fancy dress theme for my 60th show that was in New Zealand, and everyone thought I was nuts. But I don't know. When you promoted this many shows, man, you want to try to keep the spice going and keep something different and just mix it up a little bit, And I don't know. I've always liked fancy dress parties. I
Yeah.
think they're quite cool, getting into character. And I've never been to a fancy dress party and had a shit time. All
Yeah.
right, like everyone just seems to get a bit looser when they're in character,
Yeah.
so to speak. Like especially if you've got your face covered and all that sort of shit. You can be someone different and you have the best time.
And you can play
And
on it a bit.
like I said, I've always loved those kind of parties, and I did it for my 60th here, and it was wicked, man. Like the show, it was so funny, and it was just everyone had a good time. It was really cool. So for the 70th, I thought I'll give it a try in Aussie. I didn't know whether the Aussie people had the same kind of mentality as the Kiwis and they'd embrace it like the Kiwis did. And to be honest, I put it out there on my Knees of Fury page, and I got a lot of negative comments saying that I've lost it, and it's focus on the fights, it's a fight night and all this sort of shit. And I was like, maybe I'm doing the wrong thing. but I've stuck to it. I thought, stuff it. Like we'll just do it, man. It's a 70s show, so we'll do a 70s theme, and we're going to have 70s music, and big collars and big flares and big afros, and we're going to have a good night, man. Like I don't know. I'll have a good night anyway. I'm bringing my family over for this one. They haven't come over to one of my Aussie shows in about 6 years. So they're coming over to celebrate the 70th, and my daughter's going to sing the national anthem, and
Oh, nice.
just little things like that, man. Like it's going to be fun. So to answer your question, why am I doing this? It's to celebrate 70 shows, man, and that's just the way I think we can do it.
Perfect, mate. Perfect. Sounds absolutely fitting. 70s night for the 70th show. Couldn't have picked a better name.
Get your outfits ready, guys.
Now, mate, when I was younger, I used to love watching Knees of Fury on Fox Sports back in the days, and some of my favourite fighters on your show were Kim Johnson, Charlie Chow, Charles August, and of course Paul Slavinsky. I could just never forget and get the picture out of my head of who can forget Paul Slavinsky, pacing the ring back and forth while the announcer was trying to introduce the fighters. It was almost bloody intimidating.
Yeah, no, he was a mate. He's like, I call Paul a farlap. All right, like he's a farlap of Muay Thai. I was very lucky, for him, to land into my lab and to come into my life, man. Like he's a special human, a special fighter, and just being part of his career was it was just very special, man. There's no words that can describe it. He was one of the true fighters, like to the core. He never queried weight, opponent, purse, anything. He just wanted to fight, man.
Yeah.
And at times in the early days it was really frustrating because I was I was padding him. I won't say I was training him. I was his pad holder, but I was his mate as well, and his promoter at that time. And there'd be times he was young, man, and he was indestructible. He thought he was indestructible, and he would be in nightclubs on the Friday night before the show on the Saturday. And
Yes.
thinking that he could win, and he's never going to lose, and I'd have the bouncers from the club ringing me, going, Ethan, like, what do you want to do? Like, Paul's here, is he fighting tomorrow? Just shit like that, man. And he just never doubted for a second that he would win the fight, and I would keep upping the opponent every time, and I go, Paul, mate, you got to pull your head in. You got to be in the Shepster, don't worry, no problem. Like he was just so confident, and I learned a lot from him, and looking back on those times, and the more fighters I train now, and the more I realise how special he was.
Yeah.
To have that mental strength and that belief is it's just unheard of, man. Like nobody, I haven't come across anybody like him again. And I hope and pray that one day I do.
Man, what's he get up to these days? Is he like, obviously he's probably not fighting, but is he still involved in the fight game at all in any way, or?
Well, he's just started to, which I'm very proud of him. He's just started to. Well, one of the biggest things, man, that I'm proud of Paul as, like he's gone from 5-6 time world champion, to carrying on a normal day-to-day life.
Yeah.
And he's upskilled himself by, learning how to drive diggers and bulldozers, and like he's had to do a lot of courses and stuff. He's working full time now, and like a lot of fighters can't adapt to that normal life after they've lived like a rock star, and you got to remember that this is a kid that came over from Poland, that English is his second language.
Yeah.
And now he's done all these courses, and now he's working, man. He's like an every Joe blogs, just rocking up to work and taking orders from somebody.
Yeah.
You can imagine, some foreman dude, go dig that hole, go do that. and getting a kick out of his having the authority over someone like Paul. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of wankers in the world that take advantage of that kind of shit. And Paul's got to bite his tongue and not put him in the hole that he's digging. Like Paul's got a pretty short temper, man, and I'm sure there'll be times when he's like, who do you think you're talking to, mate? But he's been able to bite his tongue, and mate, like, I'm very proud that he's been able to do that and just live a normal life now, and he's genuinely happy, man. And now he's just started giving back, and he's training classes at Red Star Training Centre with Simon Peach, and by all accounts, it looks like he's really enjoying himself giving back, so it's pretty cool. It's good to see.
Oh, that's nice, man. And like, if I've got a confession to make, I honestly didn't know up until a couple of years ago when I sort of really started to study, or not study, but pay attention and really get interested in the Aussie Muay Thai scene. When I used to watch Knees of Fury as a young kid, it was sort of come across as on Fox Sports that Alan Wong was sort of like the promoter or the head honcho. I honestly didn't know that you were the actually sole promoter.
hmm
Would you be able to talk about that or not really?
Yeah. I mean, mate, me and Alan have a father-son relationship, I guess you would call it. In my first show, he obviously guided me and helped me along the way with a lot of different aspects, mainly just as a father figure and a guidance, gave me the belief that I could do it.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know what I was doing, man. I was just like a former fighter. I left school, before year 10. I had no, business background or anything. I was just winging it hard. So he guided me through that stage and just give me a few contacts and all that. And, he helped me a lot in that first show. And to be honest, I think from memory, it was even the first show or the second show. I think it might have been the first show that he was guiding me, and I was really leaning on him for confidence and stuff. But his brother or father or someone, excuse me, I can't remember who it was because I don't mean it disrespectfully at all.
No, that's fine.
But there was a family death on his side of the family, and he had to leave to go and sort that out, go back to Malaysia. So I was looking after his fighters and that at the time as well. So it sort of landed me in it, which was quite daunting and scary. But it was a good thing because then I learned that I could do it after that, So, so yeah, he guided me a lot in that first show, man. And I mean, he's always there when I need him. But yeah, as far as you thinking that he was the head honcho and all that kind of stuff, I guess I don't know. It wasn't about me, man. It wasn't about an ego stroke for me. I didn't want it to get up in the ring and go, hey, this is me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I did get up in the ring a bit back in those days and talk probably more than what I should have. And I look back on that and I cringe a little bit at times. I think, why was I getting up in the ring? And I don't get up in the ring anymore, man. And I leave that to the announcer and all that kind of shit. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess just Alan was my trainer, man. So I just, that was the natural progression. I guess he was always there. He had fighters on there. I mean, at the start, when I first started promoting in Adelaide, there was only about 5 gyms, man, and his gym was the main gym that I was promoting. That was the reason why I did it. So I guess his face was always there because he was the trainer in the corner, and I can see how you would think that, So
Yeah.
yeah, nothing wrong with that. He's a good dude, man, and he deserves all the accolades he can get.
Cool, mate. Cool. And one fight I'll never forget from Knees of Fury is when Charles August was KO'd by a Kiwi fighter called Ra Jonathan, I believe.
Yep.
That fight still sticks out in my mind like dog balls. I just couldn't believe Ra Jonathan looked like a caged pit bull, man, and he just went straight from the get go, man. He was unreal in that fight. I couldn't believe it. He just looked like he was just waiting to get off the leash and just pounce.
Yeah, he's I don't know. I guess you could only put that down to two Māoris fighting each other in Australia. You know, like it's Māori people, man, have a warrior instinct in them that I don't know. Us white people, we don't get it, man. You
Yeah.
know, like we don't come from a long history of warriors. I mean, I guess I don't know. That's the only way I can put it down to. I mean, that fight, yeah, for me, I can remember that fight distinctly. Like Charles got stopped, but he yelled at Steve in the corner and saying he wanted to continue fighting, and
That's
like
right.
he
Yeah.
didn't want to give up and everything. And yeah, Ra is a very special fighter, man. He's not the most technical dude you'll ever see, but puts on a show every time. And he's fought on a few of my shows in New Zealand as well. And yeah, I love that dude, man. He's a fighter in every sense of the word, And yeah, him and Charles put on a real good show, and Charles actually got him in the rematch, a few years after that one. So that was good.
And have you got any fighters from your gym fighting on this upcoming show?
No, no, I seldom bring my boys over to fight in Adelaide. Um, it just doesn't make business sense, man. Like I'm promoting these guys in Adelaide. Um, they're the ones that I'm trying to promote and extend their career and all that sort of thing. And they're the ones that sell tickets. They're the local guys. It doesn't make any sense to bring my guys over to fight them. Like unless it's for a South Pacific or a Commonwealth or something like that,
Yeah.
I won't bring my boys over to fight the guys I'm managing in Adelaide because indirectly I'm rooting for the local Adelaide guy, man. So they're the ones that are putting bums on seats. So that's why I do the shows in New Zealand to promote my fighters over here.
Yeah, mate. Knees of Fury is highly successful in Adelaide. I wouldn't imagine there's a lot of other big shows like your shows in Adelaide at the time. I'm sure there's probably a couple of others, but you would be the head honcho, wouldn't you?
In Adelaide or in New Zealand, are you
In
talking
in
about?
in Adelaide, yep.
Yeah, in Adelaide, yeah, for sure, man. I mean, there's other shows. There's Resurrection of the Warrior, and there's Shins of Steel, and there's big MMA show. Diamondback's doing a big MMA show now as well. But yeah, as far as Muay Thai and kickboxing, yeah, Knees of Fury would be the biggest for sure. And I mean, I'm lucky to that there's not a whole lot of shows and there's not a whole lot of competition in Adelaide. So it allows me to keep doing it, and I love it.
And how many shows a year for Knees of Fury do you put on in New Zealand?
I do two a year. I just do one at the start of the year in March, and then one at the end of the year in October.
Yeah.
And it just fits in with my Adelaide dates. So I do six a year, and that's more than enough, man. Like it's
I
a
bet
pretty
it is.
draining, it's a pretty draining job. I mean, I love it, but I mean, again, only a promoter would understand what I'm talking about as far as it sucks a little bit out of you every show. Some shows are sweet. You don't have any pull-outs and all that kind of stuff, and other shows, it's an absolute nightmare trying to put a card together. But overall, out of those six shows a year, it's a good job, man. Like mate, I got no qualifications to fall back on. Like if I'm not doing this, like I got a screen printing trade. I was a tradesman as a screen printer. So if I'm not doing this, man, and I'm going back in the factory and working on a machine and printing out stickers and core flutes and sniffing up all those fumes and shit, and I'm not in a hurry to do that, mate. So I treat every show like my last, and put everything into every show because it's something I don't take for granted. The job I have, I love, and I don't want to stuff it up, man. And you can lose a lot of money on doing these shows.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just put everything in everyone.
Yeah, mate. You've been around the NZ fight game for a while, especially Muay Thai and kickboxing. Are there any young Kiwi women or men you think we should look out for in the future?
Well, I mean, I touched on city kickboxing guys before. I mean, everyone's seeing what they're doing with Israel and Brad Riddell and Dan Hooker. They've got a few other MMA guys that are coming up through the ranks that are going to be fighting in the UFC soon as well. So as far as that goes, just those guys that are out in the public eye. But as far as young Kiwi talent, I mean, I've got a few in my gym, that are coming up through the ranks. And mate, any Kiwi fighter that you see going to Australia or whatever, just keep an eye out on any of them, mate. I don't want to really pinpoint any one or two in particular because I don't want to miss out on anyone. And there's a lot of little gyms in New Zealand that are, creating champions every day, man. And a lot of them are given back. Like I am. There's a lot of there's a lot of poor people in New Zealand, man. And these trainers are doing it for the love. They're not doing it for the money, and they're helping a lot of these troubled kids. And any one of these troubled kids can be future stars of the sport. And there's just too many to mention, mate. As long as these young kids, they can start training hard and putting in that work ethic. I believe any one of these kids, they're just, mate, the Māoris and the Samoans and the Tongans and everything, they've just got something in their DNA that is special. Like I don't know, like I'm at these schools and you teach them something, you show them a technique, and they can just pick it up so much faster than us, Pakeha white, Aussies do. I don't know whether we're just more unco or what. I don't know what it is, man. I don't know what it is, but they're just so, it's just freaking me. Like, I just laugh to myself when I see these young kids, and like before they've even done anything, they can just throw a natural jab and a natural 1-2, and it's incredible, man. Like, until you see it, you just wouldn't believe it. It's hard to explain.
And being a trainer, when you see, your fighters doing well and your promotion being so successful as it is, do you miss fighting in general?
Sometimes, like, I was never a natural born killer, man. I was a table tennis player, mate. So the idea of going into that one-on-one battle, like, I was petrified, man. Like, I seriously was. I just wasn't a natural fighter. Like, I was so scared every single time. Like towards the end of my career, I'd done a lot of sports psychology and stuff like that, and to help me overcome those fears and everything. And it was more of a sport for me, always, more than a fight.
Yeah.
Like I'd treat it like a forehand was going to be a hook, and like, it was just the challenge of, I would always focus on my fitness. I knew if I was the fitter guy, I had a better chance of winning, and I won a lot of my fights fighting against natural fighters by wearing them down in the last few rounds because of my fitness and what work ethic took over from them.
Yeah.
So I don't miss the fear and the anxiety and everything that went into it, and I don't miss the amount of training that went into it, but I guess I miss the adrenaline, and I do miss that fear factor, that just that self challenge, that every single time you had to overcome those obstacles, so yeah, it's weird. It's weird. I mean, I don't know. Did you have any fights, man?
I've only had 3.
But you've had, at least you know what I'm talking about. Like, the fear before it is something you can't explain until you've experienced it. Yeah.
No, I always remember, like, for my first fight, the whole thing just it didn't sink in until I was getting my hands wrapped. Then once I was getting my hands wrapped, in my head, I was just thinking, like, what the fuck are you doing, Muds? Like, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with watching other people fight. Why have you got to jump in the ring and test yourself?
Yeah, well, good on you for doing it, man. Because like, it's, until you've done it, you just can't explain it. But then it becomes an addiction. Like, yeah. It's weird. It's weird. Like, what do you want to do it to yourself?
It was.
And then you do it again.
Because because I won that first fight and it was relatively like fine, and the trainer was like, because this is in Thailand in Chiang Mai, and the trainer was like, "Oh, are you all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got a sore shin, but that's about it." He's like, "Yeah, okay, you fight next weekend again." I was like, "All right, sweet," and I did, and I sort of like I was still nervous as hell for that second fight, but I think because I had less time to think about it because it was only like a week in between, I even though I lost that one, I was probably a little bit less nervous than the first one, and then I had one more. I think about 3 weeks or a month later, and because I hadn't been in the ring for a month, I was shit nervous again.
Yeah. Well, you've done well to have three fights within 6 weeks or something, man. When I first started, I had like it took me 12 months to have three fights, bro. So
That's because if you're in Thailand, it's the perfect place because it's like soccer, Like if you want to fight every week or every second week, depending if you're fit and you're fine, they can find you
yeah,
matchups.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not so hard.
yeah.
I'd probably like to do it again, but because I work in the mines at the moment, so it's while I'm working, it's sort of out of the question. So I can't really do any training. The only sort of training I ever do is just a bit of running and a bit of body weight exercises and that sort of thing. And you know yourself, like if you don't train Muay Thai and hip pads and clinch, for a couple of weeks, you've lost all your fitness again.
It's a buggy you can't get some classes going up there in the mines or something, man. Surely some of those dudes that want to do some training those way instead of going to the pub after
Mate,
every shift.
I've been looking out in the gym because I did take my Thai pads up here hoping to see someone, because usually sometimes you always see someone hitting boxing focus mitts, or someone will have Thai pads and sort of just jump in with them, but I haven't seen anyone yet, but I am on the lookout. um
Yeah, well, good luck, man.
Cheers. And mate, almost before we finish, Knees of Fury is almost sold out. All your tables, general and VIP standing, they're all sold out. You've got a limited number of tickets left. If people still want tickets, how can they secure them?
Yeah, I mean, there's heaps of tickets left, man. We've got a lot of different areas at the show, but it's just those particular areas are sold out. We've still got heaps of outer seating left. And I'll never shut the doors on people, man. Like a lot of people get the mistake that for every show, the show's sold out. It's never sold out, man. All right? We can fit people in left, right, and centre. So just go to the website, www.kneesoffury.com, and there's still tickets available there. Or come to the door, get there nice and early, and we'll get you in.
Now, I know you're not really a fan of this, but are we ever going to see a live stream for the people that live outside of South Australia?
I'm I'm working on it, right? Like I've got a few dudes that are trying to do it. To be honest, man, like I've never seen or watched a stream yet that hasn't glitched or stuffed up. You
Yeah,
know, like I just
yeah,
until there's until I watch one that doesn't stuff up, I'm not going to do it. You know, because it's just so frustrating. Like I sit down and try to watch something, and then it glitches out just before the fight that you want to watch, and then you've just paid your 10, your $20 or whatever, and then for me, if that happens on my show, then I'm going to want to refund everybody
yeah,
because I don't want to take people's money that they didn't. You know, it's a colossal nightmare, bro. You know,
yeah,
so and it's a really hard thing to test. I think on the server, like you can test your server at the venue when there's just a few people logging in, but it's impossible to test the server when you've got 1,000 people trying to log into that thing. So I haven't come across a dude yet that's been able to promise me that it won't stuff out. So until technology overcomes that, then I'll do it.
no, that's cool. I just thought I'd ask because I'd know like a lot of people would probably buy the streams, particularly anyone that's not in South Australia, like Sydney, Melbourne, Queensland, WA, and
Yeah, no, fair
that's how
call,
I do
man.
my.
And then I've got to work out a way to block it in Adelaide. So it's, obviously you want people coming to the show in Adelaide. So I'm not really that IT savvy, man, but I have got a dude onto it, looking into it at the moment to answer your question. So I won't say never, but yeah, it's still going to take a little bit longer.
No dramas, because that's how Mudsy does his homework on all the fighters, you see. Now, mate, if people want to get in contact with you or find out more about Knees of Fury, how can they do that?
I'm on Facebook, man. So just Ethan Shepp on Facebook or Knees of Furies on Facebook. So yeah, pretty easy.
And mate, anyone you want to give thanks to or a shout out?
Um, I mean, I always give a shout out to my family, man. You know, my gorgeous daughter Chantel, my son Anton, and my beautiful wife Barbarella. Without them, supporting me, like as a fighter, she was there my whole career, man. And then now as a promoter, there my whole career. You have your ups and downs, man. I'm a pretty, I don't know, emotional dude. So you need a very understanding family around you. So I always give them a bit of a shout out. And then all my sponsors, Gentech Nutrition's been with me since day dot. Rock Nutrients, Backstreet Traders, Supplement Warfare. They're the main ones that have been with me. Oh, and Nico, shop fitting and everything. These guys, like long time, over 10-year sponsors. It's one part of me that, I don't know, when I was younger, I didn't mind knocking on people's doors and chasing sponsors and stuff and getting rejected. I didn't really care. But as I've got older, I don't know, man, I can't bring myself to go and knock on these people's doors and ask them, for money to sponsor my show. And as the show's got bigger, it will probably be easier. But I don't know. I've got to get better at chasing new sponsors, that's for sure. But yeah, I've been lucky enough to have these guys that have stuck with me for over 10 years, and without them, I couldn't do the shows, bro. And XSpeed Sports is another one that's been with me for over 10 years too. So all those companies, mate, I'd like to give a shout out to. And last but not least, every single fighter that's fought on my show, hundreds of fighters over the years. I hope that you've had a good time, when you've come to my show. But without you guys, there's no Knees of Fury, man. And I never forget that the fighters are the number one priority on my show. Trainers come second, obviously, because without them, you haven't got the fighters. But just the fighters in general, man, they're the ones that put their body on the line every single show and create that the spectacle for the fans to come to. And then, last but not least, all the fans, man, they keep coming back, keep coming and, partying with their hard-earned cash to come to the shows. I get messages from people all the time that say they've been, to over 50 Knees of Fury shows and shit, It's pretty cool, man. People that have been coming back for 15 years is, it warms my heart to know that I haven't let them down in any way. They keep coming back and they keep sending me messages to say that, the show was, something that they enjoyed, and now they're bringing their kids and all that sort of thing. So those little things mean a lot.
Awesome, brother. Well, the man who went from table tennis to fighting Muay Thai to a trainer to running a highly successful promotion called Knees of Fury. Thanks very much for your time, brother, and good luck with the show this coming weekend.
No worries, man, and much love to all the fellow ping pong lovers out there, mate. go have a game, mate. Thank you very much.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for your time.
All right. I also want to thank one of our new sponsors. Just jumped on board last couple of shows. Is Engage Fightwear. Doing massive things on the world scene. A lot of UFC fighters. He's really getting behind the Kiwi scene. And he's jumped on board with Knees of Fury and given all the boys and girls new shorts and stuff to wear. So thanks very much, Ash from Engage. Cheers.
No worries, brother. Cheers for that.